Jamie Lee Curtis returns to the franchise, which launched her career and spawned 1,000 knockoffs. So let's talk about it. 40 years after the events of the original Halloween, Laurie Strode is still traumatized by the events of that night. Meanwhile, Michael Myers remains in a mental institute. But when he escapes from custody, she must face him one more time. If you haven't been following the production of the film, it's a sequel to only the original Halloween. It ignores all of the sequels as well as both of Rob Zombie's films. But before I dive into it, go ahead and tell me your thoughts down below in the comment section. Did you love it? Did you hate it? And tell me your thoughts on the franchise in general as well. Tomorrow I will be dropping my ranking of all 11 films in the franchise, so you can find out my thoughts on all of that tomorrow, or if you're in the future, you can check that out right now. With that said, let's get started talking about the good. One of my favorite things about the film is that it explores what the events of that night would do to a person and how would the events of that night be perceived by society. So it starts to explore, how would Laurie Strode raise a daughter? How would she live the rest of her life? How would people in general in society perceive of Michael Myers as a killer? What would other people that were present that night think about those events and how it would affect them? It explores all these types of ideas. Also, the cast here is pretty great. Obviously, we've got Jamie Lee Curtis returning in that lead role that made her famous. And if you think about it, this is an actress that's been on the A-list for 40 years, and she brings that gravitas, that passion, and her direct ties to the role, all of it to the screen in a way that's really quite special to see something like this. Beyond that, when you kind of fill in the side characters with Judy Greer, Will Patton, these are very solid actors, and for a genre that at times can have not the best actors, this is a very well cast movie with very strong acting in it. Likewise, this is a film with very strong production values. It's probably the best production of the entire franchise. There's some long tracking shots in it that are just done with excellence. There's some artistic flair to the way the movie's shot and lit. And so it's just a movie that's handled very nicely, very professionally. Of course, this is a slasher film, and this movie delivers some gnarly kills. There are multiple times where I was like, wow, they actually went there with that kill. Other times I definitely went, whoo, in my seat as he did some stuff, and it just got pretty gross on the screen. So it delivers the thing that this type of movie has to deliver, those gnarly kills. You get it in this film. There's also some really nice creepy sequences. The trailers show a gas station sequence. That's definitely a standout inside of the film. And of course, we get our final showdown between Laurie and Michael Myers, and it has its moments that put a gigantic grin on your face. You're like, yes, that was awesome what you just did right there. From there, let's move on to the mixed aspects of the film. And the big one that comes to mind is the movie tries to play against expectations, throw some twists and turns, and make you think you're going to the left, and then we go to the right, and it kind of jukes around on you a little bit. And not all that works. I appreciate what they were trying to do, but it doesn't always work. It feels a little bit forced, like you're trying to be clever as opposed to just having a good plot line to run through. There's also some references to the genre where they're trying to poke a little bit of fun at it. And every time it felt like they were trying to reference the genre a little bit and play against expectations or put those twists and turns, it always felt a little bit too forced to me. And speaking of the final showdown, as much as it has those moments that I love, the overall effect felt a little bit underwhelming, like it didn't fully pay off as much as it should have. From there, let's move on to the negative. And one of the biggest problems here is that there's some horribly misplaced humor. Now, I don't mind some jokes here and there, but this movie adds jokes in some sequences that are supposed to be tense, and it really pulls you out of the moment in a way that does not work. And you could just feel Danny McBride adding some elements in that did not work the way they're supposed to. Likewise, the movie reset the continuity to throw away some of the crazier elements of the sequels, and then I felt like this one starts to repeat some of the mistakes of those films a little bit towards the third act, in which case you start going, if you threw all that stuff away, why are you doing some of those elements again? And finally, as I alluded to before, there's some twists and turns here that really don't work, especially in the second half of the film before we go into the final showdown. It has some little rabbit trails and little reveals and twists that just feel like very odd directions to go because they're so underdeveloped and underexplored that it just seems like they should have been cut entirely out of the movie. Real quick, before I give my final thoughts, tell me yours down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear what you thought about it. And remember to come back tomorrow to check out my ranking of all the Halloween movies, or if you're watching this in the future, just go ahead and click on over there after this video. In closing, it delivers the kills that I want from the genre. It's got some nice character moments from some great actors, but there's some major missteps with the humor and the plot twist. So while it's not quite the classic I was hoping, it is still a solid entry. I'd give this one a B and a 7.5 out of 10 on the entertainment scale. If you like this video, be sure to check out that playlist to the left with my best and most up-to-date rankings of classic horror franchises. Right below that is my ranking of the Halloween movies. At least if you're watching this in the future, it is. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies too much.